Welcome to Bill and Tony's Excellent Adventure in Music. Here are your hosts, Bill Fraser and Tony Sartu.
Welcome to Bill and Tony's Excellent Adventure in Music. I'm Bill.
And I'm Tony.
And we are going to explore our love for music by sharing some facts and our thoughts on some of the best albums of all time.
And today's album is Hysteria by Def Leppard. Hysteria was number 472 on the 2003 Rolling Stone list, 464 on the 2012 list, and dropped off altogether in the most recent 2020 list.
Travesty. An absolute travesty.
So let's start with our personal histories, Bill. Can you tell us about how you came to Hysteria?
Should I talk about our shared hysterical delusion, or should I talk about how I came to Hysteria? Well, let's talk.
Well, let's start with our personal histories, and then we'll share our shared personal delusion, our Mandela effect.
Okay. So we've talked about it before in the Van Halen pod. At least I've talked about it before. Albums that I think of as the soundtrack to my high school years. This is squarely in that. I mean, I think if I were to say, name one album that could sum up like my junior year of high school, or sophomore, junior year of high school, or sophomore to senior year of high school, it would be Def Leppard Hysteria. Like, this is like, when I hear this album, it's almost visceral. Like, it really is so nostalgic for me, going to high school and like driving my car and all of the experience of high school.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Hysteria, I just think of that as whenever I think about how a bunch of us used to go to Powerhouse Gym in Freehold, I feel like Hysteria just was playing nonstop on a loop. Like, every time you went there, it was there the whole time. And it was just definitely one of those songs that was in the background of everything that happened. I'd say, even though it came out in 87, I really think of it more of an 88 into 89.
100%. And we can really dig into that, because 88 is when it hit big in the US. I mean, it was not a big hit for the whole first year that it came out. So yeah. 88, really our like junior year of high school, this album was enormous.
So yeah, so that's a Hysteria. But for me, I actually have a bit of a connection to Def Leppard before Hysteria. I remember, and I didn't fact check myself on the exact dates, but I remember in 6th grade, living in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and Def Leppard was touring as the opening act for Billy Squier.
Billy Squier, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I remember wanting to go to that concert, but my folks didn't want to take me, and I didn't have any friends to go with to the show, so didn't go. And then, like, the next day, a bunch of kids who did get to go, they all came back. I wanted to go see Billy Squier. I didn't know who Def Leppard was, or I wasn't into them. And everybody came back with Def Leppard Pyromania concert shirts.
My Def Leppard Pyromania memories are from Skateway 9 in Marlboro, nice. Roller skating. So it was like the soundtrack to Skateway 9. Like,
really,
you would 100% get like the big hits from Pyromania. And when those songs would come on, it was like, oh, this is awesome. This is the best thing in the world. So it was like, yeah, it was a little bit of teen heaven, at the roller skating rink.
Very nice.
So let's talk about our shared delusion, Tone.
Oh, yes, I forgot. Yeah, so our shared delusion. Why don't you start?
All right. So Tony and I have this common memory. So it truly is a good example of the Mandela effect. So we've merged memories where there are multiple times when we've driven to a concert together, and we've now made a trip that we made from Action Park the same as the concert going to Hysteria, and the dates don't check. The timeline of how old we were when we were driving from Action Park to go to the concert doesn't work, and the timing of when the concert was doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So there's no way, because I was looking back and I looked at the dates. There were 2 dates where Def Leppard played Brendan Byrne. They played in 87, October 17th of 87, which we did not go to that show.
Right.
But they also played September 22nd and September 23rd of 1988 at Brendan Byrne. So we went to one of those shows, 100%.
Totally.
It was a Thursday and a Friday night. I think we went to the Friday night show because I'm pretty sure, because it was school, so I'm pretty sure we went to the Friday night show.
Yeah, but the shared memory that we have and that we've been recalling to ourselves for 30 years is that, and we didn't drive together. That's my memory. So maybe I should tell my version of the story.
Go ahead. Yeah.
My version of the story is we're at Action Park. We're in separate cars, and but we're all going to the show, so we have to drive from Vernon Valley down to Brendan Byrne. And I was in a different car than you, and you were in a car with Jamie, and you guys stopped at the motor cars, the race cars in the parking lot. So you guys are in that. So I'm not involved in that. I just drive like a normal person down to Brendan Byrne and waiting for you guys.
The other reason that I am sure that this is the wrong time frame, that we've changed this, is logically doing the connections. The car I was driving is the wrong car. So I was driving my little red Celica, which I didn't have
in
for the
88?
Hysteria in 88. I didn't have that. So I was driving my little red Celica. That was after that. We were already in college for that. So that was a college summer thing. So it was a completely different concert, but we've merged the memories together.
So I don't know what to think about that, because I definitely enjoy our shared delusional memory better than this one.
I like the shared I like the shared delusion memory better. I agree.
So anyway, I guess that's our personal histories with Hysteria.
All right, Tone. So we would love to hear from our fans. And we've got our website is updated, www.billandtonypod.com. We would love to hear from you via email, bill@bntexcellent or tony@bntexcellent. Our Instagram is Bill and Tony Pod. Our Twitter is Bill and Tony Pod. And our Facebook is Bill and Tony Pod. I got to do something about the email. I'm not there yet. I'm working on it. BNT Excellent for now.
So, Bill, tell us about what was going on in 1987.
1987, Ronald Reagan was president. There was a big stock market crash in October of 1987. The INF nuclear treaty was signed in 1987. The Iran-Contra affair happened in 1987. And I didn't remember this, but ChatGPT told me that baby Jessica was rescued in 1987. And I remember baby Jessica, but I didn't remember that was 1987. So, Tone, you want to talk a little bit about the top movies for 1987?
I would love to talk to you about the top movies in 1987, because 1987, that summer, is when I started working at the movie theater. And I continued to work there in 87 through 88. I don't remember if it was into 89, but definitely 87.
I don't know how that Freehold movie theater made any money.
I mean, between you and Schwartzy, just basically, you guys must have seen...
And Jamie.
The three of you must have seen at least 30 movies that summer.
Yeah, I mean, I remember showing up in the middle of movies and staying and watching the beginning half of the movie.
Yeah. So a lot of these movies were playing at Freehold Cinema 6. Rest in peace, Freehold Cinema 6. The number one movie was Beverly Hills Cop 2. Number 2 is Platoon, Fatal Attraction, The Untouchables, Three Men and a Baby. Those were the top 5. And then others that I definitely remember playing in at the theater I worked at, Witches of Eastwick and Predator. And I just remember that Predator, there was like a great stand-up cardboard cutout of Schwarzenegger in Predator. And I'll never forget, there was a kid, like he walks in, he was like 6, maybe 5, and he points at the sign and says, "Look, Mom, it's predation." And I've never forgotten that kid. So those were the movies. Bill, tell us about the TV landscape.
So it was right in the middle of Thursday night must-see for NBC, where you had Cosby Show, Different World, and Cheers, really kind of back-to-back, just an absolute juggernaut of television on Thursday nights. And then you had a few other shows like Golden Girls and Growing Pains and Who's the Boss. And then one of the shows that jumped out at me that is now streaming on Hulu is Moonlighting. Moonlighting was big in 1987. So
absolutely. I haven't been. We did start to stream it anyway because streaming is easier. But I've had the DVD set for a while. I think my brother Rick. I think Rick gave that to me for Christmas some year. But it's nice to have it available on streaming. It's one of those things now that yeah, what do you want to watch? And you just want to pop something on, and Moonlighting is available for you.
100%. So, Tone, why don't you tell us a little bit about the year in music in 1987?
All right, so we'll start with the albums that hit number one on the Billboard Top 200 chart. The year opened up with Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, the live record that spanned 1975 to 1985. You had Slippery When Wet from Bon Jovi, License to Ill from the Beasties, Joshua Tree from U2, Whitney from Whitney. You also had the La Bamba soundtrack, Michael Jackson's Bad, Tunnel of Love from Bruce, and the last number one album for the year was the Dirty Dancing soundtrack. The top seller amongst the albums for that year was Slippery When Wet, and Whitney was number one for the longest span of time at 11 weeks.
So, Tone, there's two albums that you didn't mention that for me are really standout albums from 1987. One is Appetite for Destruction. That was a enormous, huge album and one of my favorites from 1987. And the other is George Michael Faith. I mean, that was an absolute monstrous album as well.
Absolutely agree. And I have a feeling we might be talking about one of those albums later on this season. And the other albums to mention would include, for me, REM Document. That was, a very good REM album. Maybe not their best, but it was definitely them making the transition from college rock, alt rock into mainstream, pop rock. And I'll also call out two more. And this one's for my lovely wife, Colleen. Trio by Dolly Parton, Linda Ronstadt, and Emmylou Harris. One of her all-time favorite albums. They were the boy genius on steroids, is how I might think of them. And I'll also call out Midnight Oil, Diesel and Dust, just because I can never think of Midnight Oil and not think of our friend James, who absolutely loved Beds Are Burning, like obsessed with that
song. 1,000% obsessed with that song.
Yeah.
1,000%. Yes.
Great song, and apparently a really good album. It was one of the top sellers for the year. So that's the year in albums, and then I'll start talking about the singles just a little bit. The number one single. Sorry, folks, but Bill is dancing on camera. Oh my gosh! So the number one single for the year was "Walk Like an Egyptian" by the Bangles, and you can picture Bill doing his best Susanna Hoffs. Number two was "Alone" by Heart. Three, "Shake You Down" by Gregory Abbott. That guy, never heard from him again, but that was a pretty cool song. I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney. 4, and then Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now by Starship was number 5.
We can build this dream together, stand it strong forever. Nothing's gonna stop
song
us
so much
now.
I just can't stand that song. I don't know what my problem is with it, but some other notables from that year as far as the top singles. Here I Go Again by Whitesnake.
Now, what's the visual?
Oh, I mean, Tawny Katane on a car. I mean, absolutely.
Right away.
Yeah. That's one of those shared memories that anyone our age, man or woman, can't ever forget. And you mentioned the movies. Shakedown by Bob Seger is on that list.
Great song from that Beverly Hills Cop 2 soundtrack. It was an absolute great song.
Living on a Prayer was number 10. With or Without You from U2 was 15. And then this was interesting. So we've got I Think We're Alone Now was 18. Moni Moni by Billy Idol was 19. And then we have La Bamba at 11. So
my brain is overloading with which one I should sing. Can't compute.
But 3 remakes of songs from the 60s were in the top 20. So that's interesting. Last one I'll mention is number 20. You were talking about the must-see TV lineup on NBC. So from Family Ties, you've got Billy Vera and the Beaters with At This Moment.
I didn't realize that actually charted. That's crazy.
I mean, not only charted, but top 20 for the year.
That's huge nuts. Yeah.
All right, so that's the year in music. How about telling us, Bill, about something specific? Give us some details on the album.
So this album, Hysteria, was released on August 3rd, 1987. It was Def Leppard's third studio album at the time. It was the third studio album that they wound up producing with Mutt Lange. And it was recorded over a period of 3 years. They started recording in 1984, in February of 1984, and they finished recording in January of 87. And that recording wasn't even the end of it because there was still production going on for another 3 months. So it was really a solid 3+3.5 year process to record this album. And it was recorded in Dublin because they were tax exiles from the UK at the time.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Interesting. So, just talking about the length of time it took to record it, that's obviously true. It took that long, but in a way it didn't, because they scrapped everything from the first like 2 years. So yeah, it took 3 years to finish the album, but really the songs that are on the album took about a year or so to put together. All right, so now to the band. So the lineup for the band is Joe Elliott on vocals, Phil Collen on guitars and backing vocals, Steve Clark guitars, backing vocals. You've got Rick Savage on bass, and then Rick Allen on drums. The album was produced by a gentleman named Mutt Lange, and you may have heard of him, but if not,
Oh,
I'm going to give you a
oh,
little.
I've heard of Mutt Lange.
All right.
He's a big name, but yeah, I think doing a little bit of background on Mutt Lange would be a good thing. So Tone, you mentioned the whole fact that they trashed the album. Why don't we talk a little bit about why that happened? So
Sure.
what was going on that caused them to have this play out where they wound up throwing away a lot of the recording?
Sure. And I'm going to get into a little bit more of this in something you didn't know or might not know. But the speaking of Mutt Lange, what happened was that Mutt had produced High and Dry and Pyromania beforehand. So there are two previous albums to this.
And Pyromania was a 10 million selling album, so like huge success.
But he was on such a heater at this point in time. He was just exhausted, and he just couldn't go back to the studio and start working. I mean, he's not just a producer too, so he's a co-writer. He's got co-writing credits on the entire album of Pyromania. So he is an important collaborator, not just producing the album, but really writing the songs.
And the way that I heard Joe Elliott describe Mutt Lange is he is their George Martin. Like he is their sixth member of the band, effectively. Mm-hmm. Like, the extra person that is a part of the band. Like, when we talk about these albums and we talk about producers and how much they mean to albums, Mutt Lange is right there with, what George Martin did, what Tony Visconti did for David Bowie, with what any of the really big producers did for their artists. Mutt Lange is 100% there.
Absolutely. So he was not available. And we'll get into more details about what they did, but what they did was they decided to bring in Jim Steinman to replace Mutt with the writing. And Jim Steinman, we'll talk about him more in a little bit, but he's a prominent songwriter, wrote Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf, amongst other things. So we'll get to that in a little bit.
And Joe Elliott specifically was like, why him? Because why him? Because he's a songwriter. Like, yeah. Todd Rundgren was the producer on Bat Out of Hell. It wasn't Phil Steinman. It was Todd Rundgren. So like, we don't need a songwriter. We need a producer. But he like listened to the record company and said, okay, we'll give it a shot.
So we'll get to that in a little bit, but we'll talk about Mutt Lange now. So here's what Mutt was up to at the time or leading up to this. So he produced Highway to Hell and Back in Black. And For Those About to Rock, We Salute You for AC/DC. And depending on who you ask, Back in Black is the second biggest selling album of all time. Claimed sales of over 50 million albums.
And one of the just absolute best banger rock albums of all time. I mean, just an absolute killer rock album.
Gosh, should we do Back in Black? We didn't put that on our list.
I love Back in Black.
All right. Well, maybe we'll revisit that idea. He also produced Foreigner 4 in 1981. Foreigner 4 is a really that's practically a greatest hits album too, if for Foreigner fans. He also, like we said before, he did High and Dry and Pyromania for Def Leppard in 81 and 83. Later, after this time, he met and married Shania Twain in 93, and he produced The Woman in Me in 95 and Come On Over in 97. Woman in Me has claimed sales of over 20 million. Come On Over has claimed sales of over 40 million. So think about just between and just between Back in Black, Pyromania, Hysteria, and the two Shania albums, he's significantly involved in over 100 million.
Probably closer to over 200 million albums sold.
Yeah, closer to 200. You're right.
Yeah,
that's insane. I mean, these are, 5 of the best-selling albums of all time, and he wrote and produced all of them. So, and that's 3 different artists. So it's not even like finding a sweet spot with one artist.
And you could not be more different genre-wise than what Shania Twain does versus what AC/DC and Def Leppard does. And then Foreigner is completely different as well. So it's like he's got everything from really heavy metal to very pop sensibility to pure country. So
yeah, so whatever you want to say, this guy is definitely one of the guys. So besides producing, so we mentioned his songwriting. So and even the songwriting is crazy. Ever hear of a song called Everything I Do It For You by Bryan Adams from the Robin Hood soundtrack? Yeah, Mutt Lange wrote that. It's Gotta Be You from Backstreet Boys. He wrote that. The entire Pyromania and Hysteria, co-wrote that. All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You. Speaking of Heart, that's an enormous song. He wrote that. Huey Lewis, Do You Believe in Love? All the songs on those 2 albums by Shania. I threw in a song called Breathless by the Corrs, an Irish family act, because that's an all-time favorite of mine from that time. And then he also, besides those monster hits, he wrote songs for Celine Dion, Britney Spears, Eddie Money, Starship, Loverboy, Dionne Warwick, Michael Bolton, Carrie Underwood, Rod Stewart, and Sting. I mean, my goodness, I guess 5 Grammy Awards sounds like not enough.
It isn't enough. And here's the thing. I mean, his songwriting credits are insane. But when you really listen to the interviews with Joe Elliott and Phil Collen and Rick Allen and all of the members of Def Leppard, they talk about how much Mutt Lange brings to creating the music itself. They basically build their songs in the studio. Like, those albums are super produced. They wind up figuring out how to play them in stadiums after the fact. They're really created in the studio by the creative process that they go through with Mutt Lange. So he is really, truly a creative force and not just a producer credit.
All right. So that's everything I had on Mutt Lange. So do you want to take us into the album art?
Sure. I mean, looking at the Hysteria album cover, it is an absolutely iconic album cover from the 80s for me. So I had Hysteria on cassette tape. It's one of those cassettes that I burned out and had to get a second one of because I played it so damn much. It's cool when you have the album vinyl and you get the big image, or when you have the CD and you've got the case image. The cassette, I always hated the album covers on the cassettes. Like, I just don't think they did as much justice, especially, when you take it out, it would get a little bent, or what, like the paper in the cassette would always get a little funky. But the image on the cover, you've got obviously the triangle, and inside of the triangle, you've got the, kind of the person / animal face is kind of merged-ish together a bit. And then you've got Def Leppard at the top. It's just a really stunning visual, and really, like, I look at it and I'm like, Hysteria, like, right away. I can look at that and go, that's Hysteria. Yeah, like, I don't, it doesn't say the album title on it. I can look at it right away and go, that's Hysteria.
Yeah, the only thing that when I think about it is I see that image and I don't think of Hysteria. That image is more like suffering or like some sort of agony rather than hysteria.
It is, but when you think about Hysteria the song and why Hysteria the song was written and how it came to the album, that was a Rick Allen car accident creation effectively. And the original title of the album was going to be Animal Instincts, and the visual on the album go with that, along with the song Animal, Hysteria, the person kind of losing their mind and whatnot. So you've kind of got the animal, the person losing their mind, and all of those visuals kind of merging together. So I think it plays, but it's just it's a very memorable image for me.
Absolutely. I mean, what I'm talking about is really not important. It's such a distinct visual. You definitely know what you're looking at when you see it.
All right, so Tone, do you want to move into our something you might not know? I think we've got a couple today, so I think you've got two, and I've got maybe one or one and a quarter, maybe. So why don't you give us one, and I'll add, and then you can kind of bring us home.
Okay. So the something you might not know. We talked about Jim Steinman earlier, and I forget, we've done enough of these shows where I forget how much we've talked about Jim Steinman, if we've talked about him at all. So for our loyal listeners, if we've talked about him before, apologies for the repeat. But Jim Steinman, as I mentioned before, he wrote Bat Out of Hell. Again, we're talking about all these major big selling albums of all time. Bat Out of Hell is the sixth biggest selling album of all time. Claimed sales of 43 million albums. So enormous album. Jim Steinman wrote that. And once you think about the other songs that he's written, what a Jim Steinman song is. Like, when I tell you that he wrote Total Eclipse of the Heart, you would just say, of course he did, right? When I tell you he wrote Making Love Out of Nothing at All by Air Supply, of course he did. These songs all sound of a piece. Who wrote I'd Do Anything for Love, But I Won't Do That? Jim Steinman. And then the song that Celine Dion made famous, It's All Coming Back to Me Now, Jim Steinman. So this guy is just a major, major songwriter, but he writes a particular kind of song. And that's why, as you alluded to before, pairing him with Def Leppard just didn't seem to make sense.
No, agreed. And when they tried to work with him in the studio, the one interview clip that I heard, they were doing a take of one of the songs, and they played the song, and Steinman said, "That's it, we've got it. Put it in the can. That's great." And Steve Clark was like, "We haven't even warmed up yet. That was just like, we don't even think our instruments are in tune. Like, what are you talking about? It doesn't sound right." So they knew pretty early on that he was just not the right fit for them.
Completely out of sync. So, but unfortunately, I mean, he's a big name guy, so that's not a guy that you fire after 5 days. So they spent some time, tried to do some stuff, and it just didn't work out. So that was a lot of lost time contributing to that 3 years that we were talking about before.
Well, and they even brought in Nigel Green for a short period of time, who was the engineer who worked with Mutt Lange. So they even brought him in to try to bridge a little bit of that Mutt Lange gap. And they just, ultimately were able to get Mutt Lange back. And that happened after Rick Allen's accident.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's only so much you can engineer when you don't have the songs, right?
Yeah.
When you don't have the songs, then you can engineer all you want. All right. So that was my first something you might not know. What do you got?
All right. So I've got 2 little ones. Okay. So Tone, if I were to say to you, Hubcap Diamond Star Halo, would that mean anything to you?
I feel like you're doing a Led Zeppelin Runes modern version.
So pretty much all of the Def Leppard discography falls into the Hubcap Diamond Star Halo school of songwriting. Okay. Hubcap Diamond Star Halo is a line in T-Rex's famous song Bang a Gong. The way that they wrote their music is very much the way that Bowie did a lot of his stuff, and the way that Def Leppard does their stuff. It's more about how the song sounds than the written lyric. So, I've heard multiple interviews where Joe Elliott really talks about Hubcap Diamond Star Halo. That's exactly how we resonate, with our songs. And when we're working with Mutt, it's really very much about how the words sound versus the sonic flow of the prose. They're not writing poetry, they're writing sound.
I didn't know that, and I'd never heard Hubcap
Diamond Star Halo.
Diamond Star Halo. But I absolutely know the concept. I think we've talked about that idea on previous shows.
100%. And I'd never heard Hubcap Diamond Star Halo, but it's a thing. So that's like a school of songwriting, effectively.
And when we were at the Maggie Rogers show, as a matter of fact, I was talking to Colleen about this concept, not knowing that there was a name for it, because she was saying how she wasn't familiar with the songs, and she can't really enjoy it if she doesn't know the lyrics. And I was like, the lyrics don't matter. I mean, the lyrics, Maggie's lyrics matter, but they also don't matter because it's just another instrument to go along with the guitars and the drums and the bass.
And that's, for me, that's the thing about music, is there's so many layers to it. You can listen to it and appreciate it without knowing the lyrics. You can read along with the lyrics and appreciate it for the lyrics. So I agree with you 1,000%. There are multiple ways that you can listen. And that's one of the things I try to do. Like, I try to listen to it without looking at the lyrics. I'll try to listen to it with looking at the lyrics to try to get something different out of it. So
exactly. And I think when we get to the song track review, we'll explore the Hubcap Diamond
Star Halo
of it all.
Hubcap Diamond Star Halo.
All right. So anything else?
I got one more quick one.
Oh yeah.
Def Leppard is in the Guinness Book of World Records. So they have a unique accomplishment. They are the only band, or the first band, to achieve playing a concert in 3 continents on one calendar day. So they played a 45-minute show on October 23rd, 1995 in Tangier, Morocco, in London, England, and in Vancouver, Canada.
Oh, Vancouver. They did Vancouver from London. I guess going that direction, you gain
the hours. Yeah.
Dang. Why?
That's a long day.
I'd love to hear some reviews from attendees of that Vancouver show. That couldn't have been them at their best.
So it was in support of releasing their greatest hits album, Vault. So they did this as like a stunt to release their greatest hits album, but it's a thing. I mean, that's a trek. So
that's tough. All right. So then my other something you might not know, we were talking about Mutt Lange earlier, and we talked about him meeting and marrying and collaborating with Shania Twain. Do you know anything about the end of his marriage to Shania?
I don't know the specifics. I don't think it was great, but I don't know the specifics.
It's kind of wild, actually. Or, you know what? No, actually, it's completely not, because it's very George Harrison-esque, if you will. So Mutt and Shania are married for, I don't know, something like 10, 15 years. And towards the end, Mutt engages or enters into an affair with Shania's best friend / personal assistant. And they're having this affair, and then Shania finds out about it.
Was she really her best friend?
That's a fair question, but I mean, who knows?
I always ask that when I hear that, so I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, but it gets a little bit better, because then they divorced, but that best friend / personal assistant was also married. So Mutt and that assistant, they get together and they end up getting married. And after she gets divorced, and who does Shania marry? That best friend's ex-husband. So they basically did a partner swap. Okay, so that wraps up something you might not know. What's next?
So, Tone, there's nothing left to do than to talk about this spectacular album.
All right, well, let's do it. What were they trying to do with this album?
So this album was definitely not intended to be Pyromania 2. So when they started working on this album, the concept was they wanted to create Thriller. So Michael Jackson's Thriller had just had this tremendous run. And they said, you know what, we want to create a heavy metal, hard rock / pop version of Thriller. We want to have 6, 7 singles released from a heavy album, a hard rock album. And it had never been done. And that was their intention. They wanted to create a heavy metal Thriller or Sgt. Pepper's. So, and really, I say Sgt. Pepper's is also an inspiration for them because of the way Mutt Lange played a piece of the production. Like, he was very much in the building up the song, like how George Martin would do with layering things in, and how Phil Spector would do layering things into songs. Mutt Lange really would build things into the songs to the point where they actually recorded the drum track last on most of this album. So,
Wow.
which is just insane. You don't do that. Like, so it's really just the way it was built is just insane, but it works so well.
I can't even imagine doing the drum track last.
I can't either. And the interviews I've heard with drummers talking about building an album that way, they're like, it's just completely contra to like how most albums are built. So,
and then we can't talk about this album without talking about the Sentinel event that is that sort of signifies the before and after of Def Leppard.
December 31st, 1984, Rick Allen is in a terrible car accident and winds up losing his arm. Obviously, for a drummer to lose their arm, it's tragic. But the amazing thing is the resilience of this band. So I've listened to so many documentaries where they've done interviews and so much just audio of this band and them talking. They are so tight as a group of friends and as a band. At no point in time was it, Rick, we're going to replace you. It was, Rick, what do you want to do? It was always, Rick, what do you want to do? And 3 weeks after his accident, he was practicing in his hospital room on pillows and saying, guys, I think I can do this. Like, and I think we can build something. I can do it with my leg. Like, I can figure out a way to do this with my legs. And 6 weeks after it, he was working on building a kit already and trying to figure out how to play this. So the band stayed together. The tragedy that they went through with this, they stayed together. And right after this album, they tragically lost Steve Clark, who was just a virtuoso guitar player. Him and Phil Collen as the Terror Twins on guitar on this album and on Pyromania are just spectacular. And tragically, he died shortly after this album, and before they could record the next album. To the point where on the liner notes for this album, the band apologized for being away for so long and said that would never happen again. And then for Adrenalize, it was actually longer.
Man, I guess that's really an exemplification of whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right?
100%. And that's exactly the mantra of this band is, just take it and put it into the work. Like, just keep doing the work, keep working together and keep being a team. Like they really don't see any one of them as above any of the others. Like it's very much, a bunch of guys from Sheffield, England that are just, mates that, just said, okay, we're a bunch of buddies and we're going to do this together. They don't think any one of them is a star. They're all parts of this team.
That's awesome. Okay. So I guess that wraps up our overview on the album. It's time to dig into the tracks.
Oh, and what an album it is. So this is back in the day of sides, right? So we've got side one and side two. So side one, Tone, starts with what wound up being the lead single in the US. It wasn't the lead single in the UK, but it was the lead single in the US, Women.
And I, so I'm so glad I'm so glad you explained that whole, diamond pancake lampshade camera business, because one of the things that I have struggled with is just how seemingly nonsensical so many of the lyrics are. I'm not saying that's the case in Women necessarily, but so I'm glad that you mentioned that.
I really had to mention it because it is a running theme with their stuff. Like, they are very much about how the sound of the song is versus that they're not Bob Dylan. And they don't want to be. Well,
I mean, I know that you love Dylan. Give me Def Leppard any day over Dylan. No offense. So Women, what's great about this song being song one on track one, side one is I love just the way that guitar opens up. That guitar lick at the beginning. It just feels like an overture almost, or a prelude.
I love this whole album. So let me just preface what I'm about to say with I love this whole album and I love this song. But there is some cheese in this. So in the very beginning, God made the land. Like they basically go through creation. Like it's It is a little cheesy, but it's
A
so
little.
good.
It's
Like
all
it's
cheesy. Yeah.
so good. It's
But
so good.
what I love though is, and I love the cheese of, they say, what about legs? What about arms? What's that spell? Women. So it's dumb, cheesy, whatever. I love it. It's
But
funny.
there are such catchy hooks, whether it be some of the lines or the guitar riffs. There are
Mhm.
such catchy hooks on this album. Like
Yep.
you get their earworms. Like there's just little guitar pieces that just get trapped in your ear, or little clips of the song that get trapped in your ear. Like it is such an earworm of an album.
Absolutely. All right, so that's women. So on Rocket, it's the second track. We started with the creation myth, and then we go into outer space.
We go into outer space, but do you know how they came up with this song?
No,
Do you know the story of it?
no.
So Joe Elliott keeps hearing this song that his friend is playing, and he's like, "There's something there. This is really good." Can I borrow that tape? He takes the tape and he brings it to the studio, and they put it through their Fairlight synthesizer, and they create a loop of the drum track from the song. The song is Burundi Black. They completely built this song around the drum loop from Burundi Black. It is exactly that. And the opening gets me. That rocket drum opening gets me every stinking time I listen to it. I absolutely love it.
Cool. Well,
And then
that's
and then it's Hubcap Diamond Star Halo. Like
yeah.
explicitly it's Hubcap Diamond Star Halo because they didn't have words. Basically the song was going to be rocket. Yeah, that was it. They didn't have any words. And they're like, "Hey guys, why don't we just talk about all of the glam rock stuff that we like?" And they basically, worked in stuff from David Bowie, stuff from Elton John, stuff from Queen, stuff from Lou Reed. So Satellite of Love, Lou Reed, Ziggy, David Bowie, Gene Genie, David Bowie, Rocket Man, Elton John. So they work in all of these clips from all of their heroes in rock and roll and in music. And that's the song. I mean, the song is basically Rocket, yeah, Burundi Black, and then Hubcap Diamond Star Halo. That's the song.
I can't wait to listen to it again now through that lens. So next up is Animal.
So I don't know about you, Tone, but when I think of that song, there are two things that I think of. I think of the video. So do you remember the video for Animal?
I don't.
So the video was a zoo, and it's like a lion tamer, like whatever. And then there's the Beavis and Butthead doing the voiceover for the video. Like it's freaking hysterical.
Circuses suck.
Yeah.
Where's the dude with two butts?
Right here next to me.
Don't make me smack you again.
And
Damn.
I vividly remember it.
I've got a YouTube Beavis.
I'll put a clip in the show
highlights
notes.
now.
It's hysterical. But Animal was a tremendous single, an absolutely tremendous single. The one thing that I would say that is another common theme for me with this band from the vocals is they have such great vocal harmonies. Like Joe Elliott is not the most phenomenal lead singer. He's good. I enjoy Joe Elliott's voice, but the band has such tremendous vocal harmonies. Like when they come together with their harmonies, it's like a superpower for this group. Like they do such amazing vocal harmonies, and this song is a great example of it.
Yeah, and that's where also the production comes in too. Because Joe Elliott is not he's a great front man for a rock band, but he's not a good singer. I mean, I don't want to say he's not a good singer, but he's not a great singer.
He's an effective lead singer, but he's not a powerful singer. I agree with you.
All right, so that brings us to Love Bites.
If you could live in these sights, watch out, Love Bites.
And without giving away anything, this is a song that I particularly like. And then researching the album, I think I understand why. Because apparently...
Oh, dude, this is totally your wheelhouse, and because of where it came from. Totally your wheelhouse.
So apparently Mutt wrote this as a country song, a country ballad.
The demo they heard was a country ballad demo.
And then, they repurposed it for this album, and, it's a power ballad. It's a hard rock power ballad now, but the reason why I like this song is it's actually, like you said, it's in my wheelhouse. So Love Bites is a personal favorite of mine on this album.
The thing that I find, again, the cheese factor with I love the song, absolutely love the song. And it's like powerful and moving ballad, but there's the cheese factor of love bites, love bleeds, love brings me to my knees, love begs, love dies. No surprise, it's like, the listing of things that love does, right? So
yeah, all they're missing is Nazareth with Love Hurts.
Exactly.
or Jay Giles' band with Love Stinks. So that's my story on Love Bites.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And the way that they move, you can hear it. If you really listen to it, you can hear how it really is, a country song kind of made as a rock ballad. It really plays. When you listen to the song again, you can kind of hear the cadence and how it plays. It really plays that way. But it's an excellent song.
You mentioned a demo, but is that demo actually, out there?
I think you can probably find it. I couldn't.
All right, so that brings us to the fifth song on side one, Pour Some Sugar on Me.
All right, so this is the song that made the album, right?
Yeah.
So the album was out for about a year. They had released multiple singles to no avail. So, and Tone, I'm sure you know this, but I'm going to just share it for our audience. They were in the hole making this album. They spent $5 million making this album, and they had to sell albums. And they were a year into this album being out, and it was selling well as a reasonably okay follow-up to Pyromania, but no great shakes. The quote that I read was from this guy, David Leach, who's the SVP of promotion from Polygram Mercury. I've never sold more albums with one single than Pour Some Sugar on Me. It sold 4 million albums during that singles run alone. So as the story goes, the album was doing poorly. And somewhere along the line, some strippers in Tampa heard Pour Some Sugar on Me and loved it. And they wound up using it in their acts. And then they kept calling into the local Tampa radio stations and said, you've got to play this song, you've got to play this song, you've got to play this song. And eventually it got local airplay, and it spread from there across the US, and the rest is history.
Many people who've been to Tampa know that Tampa is just a notorious mecca, if you will, for strip clubs, like really, really good ones. They're all like right by each other. I think maybe Atlanta has replaced it, but for a long time, Tampa was the place for that. So it's no wonder that Pour Some Sugar on
Supposedly the same thing happened in Canada too. Supposedly.
Really?
Yes.
All right. Well, makes sense. And I mean, talk about nonsensical. And it turns out, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they just like tacked this one on at the end. Like they were looking for like a song to round out the album.
3 years into recording, the record company wants them to be done. They're done. They just finished Armageddon It. There are 11 songs in. The record company's like, print it. We're done. We're done. Mutt Lange's like, guys, we need one more song. Like there's this album isn't right yet. We need one more song. Joe Elliott comes into the studio and he's putting around with his guitar and he's playing this little chord that progression that he was working on, and he's singing singing Pour Some Sugar on Me over it or something along those lines. And Mutt Lange goes, what do you got there? And no, that's our single. So they didn't have words for the song. They wound up Mutt Lange going to one side of the studio with a recorder, and Joe Elliott going to the other side of the studio with a recorder and doing kind of like a little scat over the chord progression of just coming up with like words. Yeah. And then they swapped recorders and let Joe Elliott listen to what Mutt Lange did and Mutt Lange listen to what Joe Elliott did. And they picked out the stuff that they liked. And one of the things that they picked out was Joe Elliott's like, did you just say love is like a bomb? And whether that's what Mutt Lange said or not, that's how they got it. That's what he heard. That's how they got it. And that's how they built the song. And Love is Like a Bomb is obviously this iconic start of that song.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I didn't know, the song Sugar, Sugar, Honey, Honey by the Archies, right?
Yeah.
There is a part in that song where they say, pour some sugar on me.
Really?
Yep.
Did they have how are their lawyers?
Not very good.
The estate of the Archies didn't get anything for this 40 million album selling album.
No, they did not. So and here's the thing. This song is so produced and whatnot, but like it's pieces put together, and it's just a crazy great stadium song. When you hear this song in like an arena or a stadium, holy cow! I mean, I don't remember seeing them at Brendan Byrne, because it was Brendan Byrne at the time. They were playing in the round with a rotating drum kit and the whole deal. Like it was insane. When this song went on, it was insane.
Yeah. Their songs are meant for, arena rock. I mean, it really is. It's perfect.
Yeah, 100%.
So, you were telling the story about how it wasn't selling well until this song came out as the single. And I think the narrative kind of makes sense, because if you think about Pyromania being very successful, but then the goal is to not do Pyromania, so your core audience or that base that you had doesn't like it, because you're setting out to make the thriller of metal.
What they made is they made the album that all the girlfriends of the guys who listened to Pyromania like. And then they expanded their audience.
Yeah.
So the reason they sold 10 million albums with Pyromania is because they sold it to a bunch of guys.
Right.
And they sold 25 million albums with Hysteria because they broadened their audience. They made it more attractive to a much broader audience. And to your point, they didn't grab that Pyromania audience right away. They didn't.
Right. Cool. All right. So then we go from one nonsensical song to another. We close out side one with Armageddon It.
But are you getting it?
I'm getting it. But really getting it? What the?
My favorite part of that song is when Joe Elliott goes, "Come on, Steve," and then Steve Clark just goes crazy. Like, that's my favorite part of that song.
Can't argue with that. But like for a long time, like when this was my example for, and it, like I said, could be any of these songs, but this was my example of like absolutely nonsensical.
Yeah, this is 1000% Hubcap Diamond Star Halo. 1000%. it's a great poppy rock, hard rock song.
And so anything to close out side one?
Thinking about this side, you've got 6 singles that all did spectacularly. Women, Rocket, Animal, Love Bites, Pour Some Sugar on Me, and Armageddon It all charted, all of them.
Yeah, they didn't try to balance it out. They put all the bangers up front.
100%.
All right, so side 2, Gods of War. So I have to admit that I don't know side 2 as well. This is like one of those deals where I know those first 6 inside and out, but I don't know side 2 as well. But listening to it, some really good songs on here, and Gods of War is one of them.
So Gods of War, I think, is a spectacular guitar rock song. Like it is a virtuoso class from Steve Clark and Phil Collen. Like it is an absolute crazy banger rock song. It's a really good song, but I think it's probably the only song on the album where they were trying to make some kind of a statement.
Yeah, exactly. So getting to revisit it, I was like, all right, so they actually can write, sensible lyrics when they try.
Yep.
So Gods of War, pretty good song.
I thought it was a great song, and I think it's a great way to start side 2, especially with the guitar intro. So it almost sounds like it's 2 songs. And then, you have the intro and then it goes into the song. And it's just an awesome opening to the song.
So we go from Gods of War to Don't Shoot Shotgun.
Oof. There are I'd say 2 tracks on side 2 that I would say would have been a great 10-track album. Don't Shoot Shotgun. I don't hate it. I love this album. I don't even fast forward it, on listening to the album, but not my favorite track.
So it'll be interesting where this, how this plays out in the song draft. I echo your sentiments.
It's poppier, it's very much, shoot your gun, love, blah, blah, blah type of song. It's okay.
All right. So let's go on to Run Riot.
For me, this one's interesting because I look at all of the stuff doing prep for a pod on an album. I look a little bit at how people think of tracks on an album. And this one doesn't get a whole lot of love. I actually like Run Riot. I think it's a pretty good track. Especially because of the vocal harmonies that they do on it. I actually really think that this is another song where the vocal harmonies really stand out.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that just, because, we're talking about all the great songs that we've already covered, if this song is, just behind those, it still doesn't make it bad, but it's just not quite up to the level of the other ones.
Yep.
All right. So now we get to the title track, Hysteria.
And the only single on this side of the album.
Right.
I think they could have released Gods of War and probably Love and Affection as singles. Like if they had good videos with those songs, they could have released them as singles, in my opinion. Hysteria is just an all-time great song, an all-time great Def Leppard, all-time great song in my mind. This is a great song, very moving. I think, this is something that a lot of it came out of the accident that Rick Allen had.
Yeah, it was interesting just looking at just different people and their takes on this song, and this song really varies wildly. Some people can't stand it, and some people love it. Whereas the other what songs that we were talking about very squarely are in that front part, but this one goes up and down. I really like this song too. This is in that I consider it in the class of the other 6. So I mean, the 7 singles are 7 great songs, and this is one of them.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Completely agree.
So we're getting to close to the end. Number 11, Excitable.
So this for me is the other. So I mentioned 2 tracks that I think that the album could have been okay without. This is the second track. So the combo of Mutt Lange and the band had just heard the Mick Jagger, Michael Jackson collaboration, and they decided that they were going to try to do something that was in that type of a vein.
Yeah, come on, baby. Ow! Gotta be mine. 'Cause you're so
They tried to do something similar tempo to that song, and they wanted a upbeat kind of hard pop song effectively, and they achieved the sound that they were trying to get. It's just a little too cheesy for me.
Yeah, so I guess since we're disclosing our bottom 2, same. I just double checked my list, and my bottom 2 were Don't Shoot Shotgun and Excitable. I was going to say no. I'll save my comments for our final comments to talk about that a little bit more. I'll simply say I echo the sentiments. I don't particularly like this song. I could do without it. So why don't we get to the end with the final track, Love and Affection.
So again, another slow it down track, a really nice mellow. It's a great pop rock song.
Mm-hmm.
And if they had a good video with this one, this 100% could have been a single, and it could have done well. In my mind, this album could have had 9 singles on it that all could have done well, and I really think Gods of War and Love and Affection could have been singles.
If you asked me to pick the 8th single, I would have picked this. This one I actually can't believe they didn't do, because it just seems kind of radio ready. Like
it is. It's a pop rock song. It's 100% radio ready.
Yeah. So this is another one that I'm just looking at, different people commenting. A lot of people, and these are probably more hardcore Def Leppard fans, hate this song because it's so radio friendly, really mainstream pop. Being a non-hard rock guy, this definitely appealed to me. So I like this song a lot. All right, so that's the tracks. Yeah. So what does that mean? And does that mean we have to do the song draft? Uh-oh.
I'm holding up a quarter here, Tone. Our listeners at home can't see my quarter in my hand.
No, you're holding up a coin that you claim to be a quarter. For all I know, it's a 2-sided coin.
But
thing
here's the thing.
Probably rigged.
But here's the thing. As long as I know the 2 sides and you don't, and you can call, it's still a 50-50 chance, right? I mean,
fair enough. You know what? I guess I don't know if you're, gaslighting me here or what, but heads.
It is tails, Tone. I'm gonna show it to you right on the camera.
Show me the other side now. All right. I accept.
All right, so I get to go first.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if that's no, I get to choose whether I go first or not. Oh, yes, I get to choose whether I can either kick off. I can kick off or I can take.
This isn't a snake, so I mean, if you want to receive.
Well, I will go first.
Okay.
For me, it's there are 3 songs that I could pick for number 1. So I'm going to pick the song that I think for me is probably the most powerful song on the album. I'm going to pick Hysteria.
Right. And I'm just jotting it down here. Okay. So I will go with Love Bites.
I have to pick Pour Some Sugar on Me.
Yeah. And I'll do Women.
All right. It's a 2-song choice for me. I'm going to pick Rocket.
And even though I was slagging it, I'm going to go Armageddon It.
Oh, my goodness.
Armageddon It.
So I got both of the songs in my 2-song choice. Look at me. Animal.
And I'm gonna go. Ooh, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Gods of War.
I was hoping I could sneak that one. That was a bridge too far. There's too much of a hope. Um, I'm gonna pick Love and Affection.
Okay, so we're getting to the last song that is acceptable to us. Run Riot.
So which song do I like less? I will take Don't Shoot Shotgun.
That's what I would have done. And that leaves me with Excitable.
All right, so just a recap of my songs. I picked first Hysteria, third Pour Some Sugar on Me, fifth Rocket, seventh Animal, ninth Love and Affection, and 11th Don't Shoot Shotgun.
And I went with number 2, Love Bites. Number 4, Women. Number 6, Armageddon It. Number 8, Gods of War. Number 10, Run Riot. And number 12, Excitable. So I'll tell you, I don't know if I probably screwed this up because I came in here knowing like if I actually, did what I always do, I make my list and then I went off the list because I'm not smart. But because for me, I've heard Pour Some Sugar on Me so many times. And I said, gosh, I just can't
You should have picked
take
it.
it first.
You should have picked it too. Yeah, you should have picked it too.
I should have. I messed that up. But that's what was going in my head. I was like, can I pick this song with my first pick? I don't even know if I want to hear this song. So anyway, so that's what happened to me there.
All right, so Tone, why don't we wrap up with our final thoughts?
All right. So this is, more important. This album is really, really more important to you. So I'll start with my final thoughts and let you close up. Is that all right with you?
Absolutely.
So and for our regular listeners, you're going to hear a familiar refrain. Too long. This did not need to be 12 songs, 1 hour and 2 minutes. This would have been a wonderful 10 song, 52-minute album. I don't know why they felt compelled to include these songs that we both rated independently as our 2 least favorites. Just unnecessary. Does it matter? No, it's, I guess if you consider them bonus tracks or B-sides or whatever, it doesn't matter anyway, but just don't like them. I think that the album as a whole, I would have a better taste in my mouth without those 2.
So I don't disagree with you. This is in the CD age, so they didn't have to fit onto
44 minutes, 46 minutes.
And they didn't. And that was very much in their minds when they made this album. Here's what I'll say. I've re-listened to this album probably 15, 20 times since we started prepping for this. And this has always been one of my favorite albums. It will always be one of my favorite albums. And it's that for a couple of reasons. Because it means so much to me because of the time in my life when this music came out. I was 16 years old when the album came out. I was 17 years old, like right in driving and junior in high school and whatnot, and it was just a powerful emotional time in my life, right? So it's just something that will always sit with me, and every time I hear this, it brings me to that point in time in my life. But listening to all of the interviews and listening to the reviews and how this album was received at the time and specifically what they did and how they made this album and what Mutt Lange brought to this album. What they did with the Fairlight synthesizer, what they did with the drum kit that was built for Rick Allen, what they did with layering the vocals, what they did was copied so much from that point forward by other hard rock bands. Like they wound up impacting the sound, and you can argue for better or for worse, but they impacted the sound tremendously. I would say for better, but you can hear over the next 20, 30 years, albums that you can just go, okay, I can see how them hearing what Def Leppard did on this album wound up impacting this. And, one of the things that stood out to me in an interview with Joe Elliott was one of his personal idols was the lead singer for Thin Lizzy. And, they actually give Thin Lizzy a shout out in Rocket. And he bumped into to the lead singer from Thin Lizzy at a club one night, and this was right after they finished making the album. And the lead singer for Thin Lizzy said, "I got an advanced copy of her album. I'm breaking up my band. I can't compete with what you guys did." Like,
Wow.
So, and Joe Elliott's like, I it just floored me to hear that. He's like, me at this age now is like, why didn't I shake the guy and be like, go get back in the studio and work harder? But his, the sentiment is true. What Rick Allen did with the drums, two-arm drummers went and had to figure out how to do, because they layered so much additionally in with the drum kit and the drum effects and the drum machine and the loops and what they did with the Fairlight was just ridiculous. It was very much like what George Martin and the engineers did for the Beatles. They layered so much into the album. So this album means a lot to me. It's an album, when I hear it, it physically means something to me, but I also think it meant a lot to music. And I personally think it's just a great album, and I had a lot of fun listening to it again.
The other thing I'd add that you're kind of saying but didn't quite say is, we spent you and I spent a ton of time together with our really great group of friends in that 88, 89 time period. I mean, junior and senior year of high school was just so much fun. We had so much fun.
It was
all the time.
Great group of friends, just had a tremendous amount of fun. Yeah.
So when this album, brings you back to that time, of course, you can't help but have nostalgia for it, right?
Exactly.
And you're talking about the, some of the equipment. I read somewhere that they also used Tom Schultz from Boston, his Rockman amp that he created for, when they made their Boston albums, but they were slagging it. They were saying like it was crappy or whatever. So I couldn't quite understand why they were using this thing that they thought was crappy. But there must be some musical engineering thing to it.
They did not use inexpensive equipment in layering this together. I mean, this is like you could not do this at home, friends. Like this is like, they spent a lot of money in 1987 dollars making this album.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I guess that takes us to the end, right? What do we have left?
I always look at where these albums fall on my personal pantheon ranking wise, because and listening to the Rolling Stone 500, I have my little spreadsheet and update my rankings. For me, this album falls in the top 100. I think this is in the top 100 albums of all time, personally, and I would put it in the 80s. So right now it's number 87 on my list. List changes constantly because as I listen to things, I update, but I think this is in the top 100 albums of all time, personally.
When I was glancing at the show notes, you don't know this, but my second screen is actually not a monitor. It's an old TV. So the res is not so good. And my vision is not so good. I looked at the show notes and I thought it said number 8. And I was like, God, Bill, I mean, I know you like this album, but you got to be kidding me.
Not number 8.
So I didn't know it was 87 until you just said it. I looked over. Oh, yeah, that says 87. So anyway, all right, cool. Well, that takes us to the end. This is it's great to be back. Season 3. Super excited to be back on the horse, and so grateful for everyone that has been asking about us, and hope you all have come back and are joining us for this brand new season.
And we're going to have a lot of fun talking about 80s and 90s albums in season 3.
Yeah, we've got a great selection, and it's funny, as we were talking even today, it's like, oh man, we got to add a couple of more to the list, right?
Oh,
so
100%. It's the problem is there's so many good albums. So I mean, actually, that's not a problem. That's a wonderful treat, right? So
yeah. All right, so take us out, Bill.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to Bill and Tony's Excellent Adventure in Music, and we really appreciate you spending some time with us, and look forward to you coming along with our journey for season 3. So thank you all, and have a great rest of your day, night, evening, wherever you are in the world listening to this, and we will talk to you again soon.